Hello and welcome to Girls Guide to Guitar. Today we're going to learn how to restring a guitar. General rule, you should probably change your strings once every 6 months, 9 months tops, but you can generally tell because the strings will start looking a bit interesting and kind of dark and dirty. So today's the day we're going to bite the bullet and we're going to change the strings. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to loosen all your strings up. Now you'll notice that I'm doing this on two sides, so at the moment I'm doing the 6th string and the 1st string. The reason for that is you want to release the pressure on the neck about evenly so you don't damage your neck of your guitar. Now once you get it loose enough, you're going to be able to just unhook the string off there and just pull it out. And you can just leave this one down there. And you're going to do that with all 6 of your strings so that you've got them all off the neck. Okay, so now we've moved all the strings from the top of the guitar and you'll end up with a whole lot of rather interesting looking strings like this, and we're now going to move on to the next section. Okay, for the sake of neatness, I'm just going to take all 6 of these strings and I'm just going to tie them up a bit just so they're out of the way. Now the next bit, you'll notice down the bottom here we've got 6 pegs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a screwdriver, and where the string comes out there's a little kind of hole in the peg. So you can pull this out, I think, and it should come out like this, and it'll look like that. For the moment we're going to leave the string, oh, it'll come out. So we're just going to do that to all 6 of them. Some of them are a bit interesting, some of them will come out okay. If you have a lot of trouble getting your pegs out, what you can do, maybe don't use your fingers but use something harder. You can actually put your hand right into the guitar, can't show you this on camera, and you can push them out from this side as well. So sometimes your pegs need a little bit of encouragement. But yeah, we're just going to take all 6 of these out, and then that way all of our strings are going to come loose. Sometimes they need a little bit of jiggling. I'm a bit rough with my guitar, but she still likes me, so it's okay. Okay, so we've got the 1st strings off. Now, some guitars will look a little bit different down on the bridge section. So for most acoustics and electrics, you'll end up with these strings with a little ball end like this. But with classical guitars, you'll end up with something a bit more like this, where it's just a straight string and you have to tie a knot in it. So when you're undoing it, just keep a note of what is happening there, because you're going to have to redo that. But if you can remember how it is or take a photo of how it is, then you can copy it when you go to put the strings back on. Okay, so while you've got all your strings off your guitar, you might as well give everything a bit of a clean. I'm just using a damp tissue because I'd rather not put any kind of products on my guitar. So yeah, especially like this kind of section here, your fretboard, you can give it a bit of elbow grease and get rid of some of the stuff that's in there. I mean, look at the things that come off, it's a bit interesting. And then the other one is also the headstock up the top here. Any of the things that you can't regularly get to while your strings are on, that's a good place to kind of get all that cleaned now. The other thing you can do is you can check, especially if you've got a spanner, you can check all these little bits and just make sure that they're all tight, that they're all what they need to be. The other ones that you can check are these little screws in here. A lot of guitars, bless them, are just nuts and bolts. So if you just want to make sure everything's kind of tight, in working order, everything you need to do, now's a good time to do it. Okay, so once your guitar is all clean and happy, you can start putting some strings back on it. The ones I'm going to use are Martin Authentic Acoustic. I like the light ones, which are 12 to 54s. If you're not sure, just go into a good music shop and ask them. But this is a pretty standard brand and a pretty standard size, so they're quite good to use. Okay, so the Martin strings are quite good because they come in 6 little envelopes, so you're not going to mess your strings up. Sometimes you'll pull the strings out of the packet and they'll just be like 6 everywhere. But you'll notice that the low E string is going to be the fattest one, so you can generally find that one pretty easily. So that's going to be our first job, and we're going to put him on. And we're just going to reverse the process that we did to start off with. So we're going to put that one in its little hole, we're going to find its peg, and we're going to put it in. Now you can press the peg down reasonably hard. It's going to creak and groan a bit, but that's a good place to start. From there, I like to put all my strings in first, just so I don't lose which one or which number string I'm up to. So we're just going to do that now. Okay, so I've got this cute little rainbow of strings happening now, and I've put all my pegs in. You might notice as well, I have to kind of check, make sure that this is where I'm playing, therefore that's where my low E string is. I'm sure everyone takes their strings off their guitar and like immediately forgets which way you've got to put them round. Okay, so from here it can get a little bit messy, but what we're going to do is we're going to start with our 6th string, and this is why I like to have pegged everything in down the bottom so I know which one's going where. Now the rule with this is try and be consistent through the whole thing. So this 6th string, you're going to put it through this peg here, and you're going to put it inwards going outwards. So that way when you go to tune it, it'll tune the way you're expecting it. Now what I tend to do is I kind of put it in a fair way, and so I've got this bit hanging out before I start tightening it up. So when I'm tightening it up, the other thing you want to do eventually is you're going to have to get it in that little groove there. Now the first job I'm going to do is just tighten it up a little bit because I don't want to make the pressure uneven on the neck. So that's probably enough for the moment. So now I'm going to take my 1st string and I'm going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to put it in here. So same again, you're going to do inwards, if we can get it through, inwards going outwards. Now note, particularly with this 1st string, I leave a little bit of leeway because when we're winding it up, you're going to want it to do a couple of circles around there, so it's actually going to hold the string and hold the tension. Now you can get some like super cool string winders and even these like little attachments you put on your drill, but my favourite is a good old-fashioned time lapse. Okay, so we've got all the strings onto the headstock, but there's no tension on the strings yet. Now if you look closely, I like to have a nice neat little coil up here, but if it's not perfect, that's okay, as long as you've got a couple of rings around there, because it's going to need to hold the tension. Okay, so we're just going to tighten our strings up a little bit. Now you get some pretty interesting noises coming out of your guitar at this point. At this point, I'm not really too worried about pitches, I'm just worried about getting a little bit tighter. Now I'll tighten this one up a bit, and then I'll do the same on the 1st string, because that way we'll have it nice and even between each of them. So I'm going to do that for all of my strings, just get them in the ballpark of a pitch before we worry about anything else. Now while you're doing this, there'll be lots of creaks and groans, and you might find some of these little pegs may kind of pop up, and that's okay, just push them back in again, they'll hold eventually and you'll be able to get everything working. Okay, so now I've got some rather delightful pitches on my guitar, so what we're going to do is we're going to tune them up to pitch. Now if you've never done this before, this can be a bit interesting. If you know the names of your strings, that's a really good place to start. If you don't know the names of your strings, just remember Eddie 8 Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie. So we're going to start with our E, and we're going to put this up until it actually says an E. And you can generally tell because it'll sound in the ballpark of what you think it's supposed to sound like. Then this one we're going to take to an A, so it's Eddie 8, D for Dynamite. Let's bring this up to a D. Then it's G. Now you'll notice I'm not being particularly picky about exact pitches because it's going to go out again in a sec. But what we're going to do is once we've got them into the general vicinity of, then we're going to deal with the next stage of this. Alright, so now we're going to talk about what to do with all these little end bits. Now some people just use a pair of pliers to take them off, but you guys are not, because I'm going to show you the special Girl's Guide to Guitar way of doing this. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the string and you just kind of bend it as far as you can one way and bend it as far as you can the other way. You do that a couple of times and you'll notice that it'll come straight off. Ta-da! And that way you'll end up with a nice clean cut. It's not going to poke anyone or anything like that. Now this is why I was saying earlier, you do have to have a couple of coils of the string around here, because otherwise you're going to take this off and the string will be like, no, I have no tension. So you need to make sure of that. So what you'll notice, especially once you've taken the ends off the strings, we were kind of in tune, now we're not in tune anymore. So what we want to do, first things first, is just stretch our strings a little bit. and just make sure, and even just like all over as well, just to give it a little stretch. Word of warning, don't be too rough with the first E string or you'll do what I do and accidentally break it. But just give it a little bit of a stretch. Just get them all in. And then we're going to tune again. Now this bit is the moment of truth, because if the string's not sticking, this is going to be the bit where it won't tune up and it'll keep slipping off, in which case you may have to look at replacing one of the strings. But if you've done everything right, hopefully you'll end up with that. Now I'll often do that a couple of times, and just be patient with your guitar as well, because over the next couple of days it'll probably just go out of tune a bit, and then within a couple of days it'll start sounding really nice. Okay, so there you have it. We've changed the strings, and once you've done it, you'll be super pleased you have, because the strings will have a really good ring to it, and they'll sound really nice, and you'll notice how crappy your strings are sounding from before. Thanks so much for watching, and if you do enjoy the Girls Guide videos, you can like and subscribe below. And remember, keep playing your guitar, because it's great to have something positive and exciting to do in your life.